And so the moment you get a diagnosis, I think sometimes we go back there and we want to unwind, and we're meant to rewire all the negativity that was thrown at you because you were behaving out of your control, literally. And
Right.
other people did not know how to control you. And that's all fear. And when people are in fear, that's when they criticize, and that's when they label, and that's where they say, I can't fix you. So you have to stop being yourself. So it all gets churned up in a good way, I have seen.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy work, but it's important work to really go back there and heal all that pain so that when you're moving forward into this new 2.0 version of yourself on medication with proper therapies, that you don't get stuck back there.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to ADHD and with Jorie Houlihan. Today's guest is somebody who I've actually never really talked to, like in a webinar or now this podcast, and I think it's going to be really fun. Her name is Lauri Stern. She is the founder of Custom Designed Wellness. She is a yoga teacher, facilitator, practitioner, author, and podcast host. So she does a whole lot of things. As the founder of Custom Designed Wellness, she empowers individuals and organizations to cultivate self-awareness, balance, and well-being from the inside out and outside in. With a deep understanding of the mind-body connection, she guides people on transformative journeys that integrate ancient wisdom from modern self-care. Her work spans yoga, employee wellness, and personal development, helping others recognize their innate power to heal, grow, and thrive. She is certified in yoga, Reiki, chakra balancing, and uses her intuition in all she does in order to create the customized pathways for personal and professional growth and alignment. She also hosts the Real and the Woo podcast with Lauri Stern, where she bridges the gap between the practical and the factual to the mystical and the magical, connecting people to others and to themselves, covering topics from the deeply real to the super woo. I love woo, by the way, and everything in between. Her conversations are designed to elevate, inspire, and foster meaningful connection. I am so excited that you are here because, like I said, I rarely get to, I'm usually talking to people directly about specific ADHD things. And I think sometimes we forget that there's so many things out there that can be used as tools that don't have to be always. And I do think there's actually science behind a lot of woo that, that's my feeling on it anyway. But I just think this is a kind of a neat way to talk about the topic in a way that I haven't before. So I'm very excited that you're here. I don't know if this makes any sense, but I'm really happy that you're here. Okay, so let's get into some questions. You talk about custom designed wellness. So for women with ADHD navigating demanding careers and late diagnoses, what does a truly customized wellness journey look like in your eyes?
In general, a customized path is, I always say it starts with a conversation, right? So any practitioner out there, send me your calendar link. Let's set up a virtual coffee. Let's set up a chat in person if I'm lucky, or virtually, globally. Because for me, I find that when I have conversations with people, that's when my intuition kicks in. So through those conversations, of course, we're identifying why are they reaching me? And then we figure out the pathway. So like you said, I offer a lot of different things. Energetic wellness comprises yoga, movement, breath work, mindfulness and meditation. I use the lens of the chakra system, but I call them our internal instruction manual because that is too woo-woo for some people. But when we understand, what I like to say, it's on my website, it's my tagline, when you understand how your wheels turn, you can drive the vehicle of your body anywhere. So even if your body is a little haywire with some misfired wiring that creates this attention deficit disorder or hyperactivity, we can work through Reiki healing, movement, a variety of things, sometimes just straight discussion, why this might be happening and how and where does it resonate in your body when it's happening. Because as you remind people and as I remind people, just because you have an issue doesn't mean you're broken.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I am constantly reminding people, I'm like, you're not broken, I swear. And I love that you individualize this for people. Sometimes I think people think that things are like a one size fits all,
Mhm.
and there's nothing about ADHD that's one size fits all. There's nothing about human beings that is one size
Mm-mm.
fits all. So I'm happy to see that you acknowledge that and use that in your practice. Um,
Can I just hop on that for just a second?
uh huh.
Because, as a mom with, 2 other children who are also ADD, ADHD, I remember going through the school system and battling the school system, and what you're describing is differentiation within a classroom, which
Right.
is really hard to do on a regular day for even a veteran teacher, but when a school district is cutting its budget or its staff and they're hiring brand new teachers, right out of college, they don't know. Can I cuss?
Yes.
They don't know fuck about differentiating. And what they end up doing is making the students behave. And kids with any sort of disorder, but especially ADD, they need to move. They need to hold on to that pencil. They need to maybe have a little widget thing underneath their desk. They need to let their bodies work for them instead of against them. And in a traditional school model, when they're just trying to get through the day, I found that to be the worst battle I encountered as a mother, to get these teachers to really recognize my students, as I would hope any parent experiences. Because just like you said, everybody is different physically, mentally, socially, capably. And it's just really aggravating that we don't get more differentiation for the taxes we pay in our
I
school systems.
agree. I agree. I've said for a long time because everybody learns differently too, right?
Mhm.
And I wish
I
they
do.
had yeah, I definitely do.
Mhm.
And I wish they had a classroom setup where it was okay for those of you who are my doers, the ones who have to they learn best by doing. This is what you're going to do. Okay, my visual people, this is what you're going to do. My auditory people, blah blah blah, and even have days where maybe they mix it up just so that kids can try to see things from a different perspective. Okay, you who
100%.
do,
Yep.
why don't you work with do the auditory things, see how that works for you? And it's not
Mhm.
to make people feel stupid or whatever. It's just so that they can try to understand another perspective because we have lost that ability
Yeah.
to see
Well, and as
perspectives.
adults too, like, why does this person aggravate me and this other person doesn't? Or why am I so annoying to some people when I'm drumming my fingers on the table and other people just seem to brush it off, you know? But
Yeah.
if you spend some time in my body, you're going to want to drum your fingers on the table from time to time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm the leg bouncer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too.
that
My
makes me
my
very
parents used to
popular.
say, "Your motor's running." And in fact, it was. Yeah.
Yes, yes, I feel that. Okay, so many of our listeners feel like they're only starting to get themselves after their diagnosis, right? They've been newly diagnosed or they're within the first year or two. So, what is your process for helping someone rediscover who they are beyond the label?
Yeah. Oh, God, that's so huge. So, one of the reasons I was guided to go through yoga teacher training was exactly that. Not only that's how my hashtag You Matter came about, if I can help people matter in the skin they're in and understand the skin they're in, one person at a time, that's my goal and that's my mission on and off the mat. What ends up happening is we walk through the door and we're already wearing labels, a wife, a sister, a mother, a coach, whatever it is. And so one of the most profound meditations I created and I still use in my practice is just to sit in front of a mirror and go all Batman and Robin on yourself and put up all those talk bubbles and then just through breath or whatever visualization just sort of pop them out. And so you really are just sitting in your divine body, right? We're all just wearing these meat suits. And so the first few days, weeks, months, there's probably, and I've seen a lot of relief. Now people understand why they've been unable to focus or their motors are always running, right? And
Yeah.
then there's these pendulum swings where now I'm identifying as this. And that's such a negative in some circles. So, how do I get over identifying as this? And really, it's just getting back to dealing with and understanding and finding joy in the body that you have while you're going through figuring out how to navigate this diagnosis because medication is so subjective, also, just like people. What I take for ADD, somebody else, it might not work for them. Or,
Mhm.
kids too. Do you need long acting? Do you need short acting? And then, there's a lot of aggravation because it's fear based. Who's going to fix me? Who's going to help me? How come my doctor, can't figure out the right dosing? Or how come my teachers can't figure out how to deal with my kid? Or how come my friends don't like me anymore because I talk too much? Blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
So a lot of self criticism comes up, I believe, whenever we receive a diagnosis of any kind. But how to help people rock it and embrace it and just keep on swimming, just
Yeah.
keep moving.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
key.
I've heard people say, people keep saying that since I've been diagnosed, I'm blaming everything on my ADHD. And I said, I don't think you actually are. I think you're naming it. I think you're discovering your ADHD, where your ADHD is showing up along with everybody else. And so
Hmm.
it's not so much blaming it, but you're just like, oh, that's ADHD. Because there were so many things I had no idea about when I got diagnosed. Like, wait, that's related to ADHD? Oh, that is too. But also, we can also, though, get kind of sucked into the label is twofold in my opinion. On one hand, it gives you access to treatments that you would not have otherwise. And you have answers now, right? That you didn't have before. On the same side, there sometimes is still stigma with the ADHD label and things like that that sometimes we have ourselves, right?
Hmm.
So I agree. Like part of it is I think that keeping momentum going, whether it is physically moving, like what you're talking about, et cetera, I think that's such a good thing because otherwise we kind of get stagnant. Then we start to become a hermit a little bit about it and start to hide it. And I don't
Yeah.
necessarily say go out and be like, I'm ADHD to every single person you come across, but I'm also saying don't
They
be
probably
ashamed of
already
it.
know.
Yeah. Right. I had some people
um,
were like, you have ADHD. And then I had other people go, oh, wait, you didn't know? I was like,
yeah.
I was
Um,
trying.
yeah, what I'm hearing too, and it's so important to remember. So, A, it's sometimes a catch all in victim mentality. So there's
Hmm.
victimhood and then there's blame, right? So when people might first receive this diagnosis, they're like, see, I told you there was something wrong with me. And they're just going to use every excuse under the planet to sort of not take responsibility for their own behavior, whether they're medicated or not. So the first thing
Hmm.
is taking responsibility for how you are in space, regardless, and then not blaming. Maybe you weren't diagnosed soon enough, or blaming the people that didn't really like you because of how you behaved, right? And so, where that hits us in our body, if you go back to childhood, and I was undiagnosed,
Hmm.
and they used to take me to to stores, my mom and my sisters, and they literally put me down so I could run down the aisle, and they'd wait till I was just out of eyesight, and they'd say stop, and I'd stop, and they'd catch up to me, they'd say go, and I just did laps.
Yeah.
Right? But, the messages, I mean, those are positive messages, but I also got negative messages about my motor running, or why do you ask so many questions, or, oh, she never shuts up. And so that sits in the body, right? In our root chakra, our sacral chakra. And so the moment you get a diagnosis, I think sometimes we go back there and we want to unwind, and we're meant to rewire all the negativity that was thrown at you because you were behaving out of your control, literally.
Right.
And other people did not know how to control you. And that's all fear. And when people are in fear, that's when they criticize, and that's when they label, and that's where they say, I can't fix you. So you have to stop being yourself. So it all gets churned up in a good way, I have seen. It's
Hmm.
not easy work, but it's important work to really go back there and heal all that pain so that when you're moving forward into this new 2.0 version of yourself on medication with proper therapies, that you don't get stuck back there.
Yes. Going back to what you were talking about when people didn't know how to be with us per se, like they didn't understand why we talk so much or they didn't understand these things. And they say that kids who are undiagnosed or undertreated for ADHD hear like 20,000 more negative comments than their neurotypical peers by the age of 12, right? And like you said, we internalize that and that we absolutely take that on physically. And
Mm-hmm.
so being able to go back and learn how to kind of let that go That's one of the reasons that I'm really happy you're on here, because this is where you shine, right? Like, you can help people find those places in their body and help them to release some of that, because I used to do something called craniosacral therapy.
Mhm,
And there was a portion of it where it was called somato-emotional release. And it was where we would help people release emotions from their body. And it was incredible to witness when you were working on somebody. I haven't done
mhm,
that in forever, but I think that all of these modalities, Reiki and yoga and craniosacral, all these things are all really great tools to help people get those things out of their system, because it does make an impact, and you do bring it with you, and it ends
mhm,
up really holding you back, I think, eventually. I agree. Like, when we internalize these things as a kid, because we, of course, think, oh, it's us, right?
mhm.
There's something wrong with us, but it's just we're wired differently. And people didn't quite know what to do with that. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think that's important. So you blend yoga, Reiki, chakra work, and coaching. So can you share a story of how this fusion helped a client with neurodivergency thrive?
Yes. So, case in point, I've got clients who come see me just for Reiki. They just want to lay on the table and whatever comes through me. I don't do anything. I'm literally the channel. What comes up is healing in their body. And because chakras are my lens, I'll see colors on their body where there might need to be some conversations. Okay. That's one way after those conversations come up, then we talk about, you know, their challenges, their goals, how to better focus and stuff like that in that modality. Other clients, diagnosed or not, just need to move. So I have clients I literally take walks with, or we'll do sculpting and toning. And while we're doing that, we're talking and things come up as they always do. And so that's how I call those healing conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And so truly, it's not a one size fits all model. And the person who wants to lay on the table one day might want to take a walk the next day. And so overall, I mean, I can't pinpoint any one exact aha moment. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of little ones that just create an overall sense of well being and the people that are guided to work with me. And, I'm not a doctor and I don't profess to be a doctor. And just like you said, like I've got my noodles I can throw on your wall. But there's lots of other people that have other noodles too. And,
Mm-hmm.
going back to school for just a second, because our bodies are really buzzing, the loss of daily physical exercise for kids in school, because of all the testing and all the parameters, the budget, and blah, 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 blah. When they stopped having daily PE and daily recess, that's when the prevalence of ADD, ADHD was, you know, skyrocketing because kids had to sit still who weren't able to sit still and they had no outlet for it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just all little kids still, right? So if we're sitting at a desk all day, because that's what we have to do, I have clients that do that. I'll say, go to the bathroom and do power poses, jump up and down, go outside, take your shoes off when you can, walk around even for
Mm.
15 minutes and ground, or find a safe place to, even in your car and scream or sing, like move and vibrate really seems to help as well. Just that's why Ujjayi breath is so great. It really does vibrate. It's like I call it mining for gold, we're shaking the body and the little nuggets are left over. So, don't always spend lunchtime sitting down, you guys. Spend lunchtime walking around,
Yeah, when I used to do a 9 to 5,
standing desks.
oh yeah, I forget sometimes my
Great
desk is a
thing.
standing desk. I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
should stand up
Yeah.
every once in a while.
I know. What a
Um,
great invention.
I
Yeah.
know. Because I work from home now, but I am a big, I actually teach people how to take breaks, because when you have ADHD, there's a big fear of taking a break because of the fear that you won't go back to what you were working on.
Mm,
And so I use a visual timer to time so I don't wait too long to take a break. And then I always make time to go out in the backyard and run around with my dog for that reason. And when
mhm,
it's summer or when it's nice enough, like you said, I try to have bare feet on the ground. I think that's really important. And I wanted to mention to people who maybe think that Reiki, that kind of thing, is I don't know, not real or whatever. I want to just share really quick my experience with it. The first time I ever had it done, she was a friend of mine from college and she was doing it on me. She'd just become a Reiki master or whatever, and she wanted to do it for my birthday that year. So we were done and I was like, okay, whatever. The next day, I was on the train. and I'm going to when Children's Memorial Hospital used to still be Children's in Chicago over on Lincoln, and I used to be what they called a cuddler. And so I got to go and I got to hold babies and just like cuddle
Mm-hmm.
them. And, oh, I loved it. Anyway, there was a Starbucks under the tracks, and I'm in there and I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I'm crying. And I have no idea why. And I'm like, which of course is making me cry more. And I'm like, what is happening? And I get to the hospital and they were like, are you okay? I'm like, I don't know. And then I ended up calling my friend when I got home, because this was before cell phones, and she goes, I go, what did you do to me? She goes, oh, finally. I was wondering when that was going to happen. You needed a release, girl. And I
Yeah.
was like, is that what this is? But it was good. I felt amazing after it happened. But it was
Mm-hmm.
one of those things where I was sort of like, okay, whatever, I don't know. But it did something. And so for those of you who are like kind of like weird about the woo stuff, don't discount it, because I'm
Yeah.
telling you, there is something to it.
I equate Reiki like an internal massage. And we know, it takes faith and trust to receive a massage, right? You get those people that are just bracing, they don't know how to receive a massage. And in that
Mhm.
same way, just being open to receiving Reiki is no different. And just like a massage, when we're working on deep tissue and we're getting toxins out, and you might feel a little sore the next day in spots, or you need to drink a ton of water, it's the same. Right. I always
Mhm.
recommend my clients drink a ton of water, keep a dream journal, and just journal about what might come up, because sometimes things do.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was it was incredible, and I was like, "Okay, there's something to this stuff." So,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely be open to it, because you just never know. I had people that when I did massage and craniosacral, they would start laughing on the table. They
Yeah.
couldn't stop, and those were I loved those.
Yeah.
So, you just never know what will come up for you.
Exactly.
Okay. So, professional women often excel at work, but often struggle with self care and energy. We are really good at burnout, unfortunately. So, how do you help clients balance ambition with actual well being?
Well, showing up for a session is exercising self care. And I have a debate with a yoga friend of mine. She's been on my show too. And her name is Steffi. And I swear in her class, she says self care is health care, but she doesn't. So I say that self care is health care. She says self care is not a luxury, it's a necessity. And I agree. So
I do
the
too.
battle I find in women, especially, is we forget that we are allowed to feel happy and joyful, and factor that into our day, which is why my show has a break for joy. We get so caught up in the rat race and the hamster wheel and the doing that we forget that being is just as important as doing, right? So the doing nothing is actually doing something. But because it doesn't look to the untrained eye like we're being productive, we toss it out the window. And so I just remind some of my clients that as productive and kick ass as you are at work or in your role as wife, mother, whatever, shine that on yourself and make a plan, set up a schedule. If you're very schedule driven, schedule time for yourself into your day, right? Look, the tools you give people to navigate their diagnosis is the same that I would
Hmm.
give them, so the overachievers, be a little overachieving towards yourself as well as your job. So that's the balance. And turning off the phones, like at least a half an hour before bed. Just no screens, or at least not scrolling, like no doom scrolling. It's just not necessary, right? Put on some music, or stick your feet in a bath, or I don't know, watch a comedy, something.
I agree that self care is not a luxury item, and that we definitely, and I agree too that it's healthcare. We,
Mhm,
with women who have ADHD, you hit on something, which is, we're always so like, needing to feel productive. And for people with ADHD, that's often driven by this fear of looking lazy,
mm,
right? Because I was certainly accused of that, and it was executive dysfunction. I couldn't get myself to do the thing. So to get women to appreciate that it's okay to do nothing. You aren't
mhm,
expected to be doing something all the time, and that by resting, because sometimes rest is the thing that's needed, or
mhm,
going for a walk or whatever, but you don't always have to be productive all the time. And that when you don't establish those boundaries, that is what can lead to burnout. right? So I
Huh.
really, our friend Lindsay mentioned that at our meeting the other day. She said, burnout is not due to working, it is due to not having boundaries. And I was
Mhm.
like, boy, is that ever the truth. So, but self care, I think, is so important for everybody, but definitely when you are neurodivergent, because our energy is just different and we pick up on things differently than other
Oh,
people.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, we get overstimulated more easily sometimes. So just when you can start to see what that looks like for you, that's when it'll be easier for you to create self-care routines that will work with that, I think.
Right. And where it connects, for me too is, again, like guiding clients to understand where they're feeling tension or dis-ease in their body
Mhm.
or mind, and that is the clue. Our bodies are our best barometers of truth. And so when we're uncomfortable, we get angry or we have shoulder tension or jaw tension, that's an indicator that something is a little off and it needs your attention. And paying attention to that through the course of your day is really important as well. And even just that, that's a little piece of self care in the middle of a day. Hey, I'm noticing my jaw's a little tight. You don't have to go down the rabbit hole of why or who might have pissed you off, or maybe you're pissing yourself off. Just give your jaw a little open close, a little back and forth, blah, blah, blah. Do something strange. Let the essence go, let the steam escape, and then move on. Doesn't have
Love
to be this
that.
huge practice where I gotta call my Reiki practitioner, I gotta call my health coach or whatever. It
Right?
can just be little tiny little tips and tricks in the day that are unique to your body.
Yes. Love that.
Yeah.
Keep it
Mhm.
super simple.
Yeah.
Uh,
KISS. I do that in yoga all the
yes.
time. Keep it stupid simple. Yep.
Yep. All right. So ADHD brains, as you know, love novelty, but fear new routines. So, how do you customize practices that actually stick for someone who gets bored easily or is overwhelmed by choice?
Okay. Well, first, I'm trying to figure out how to answer this because that's not me. I I love new things, right? I'm the Gemini. I'll
Yes.
be like, "Oh, what's that? Oh, what's that? Oh, what's that?" So that's how it manifests for me. I love everything for 5 minutes. So,
Yeah.
and then sometimes I can't stick to it, right?
Right. And
So,
that's what I'm saying. Like they love the novelty, but they fear routine. So when
yeah.
it's like, okay, but now you have to do this regularly,
Mhm.
and that's where I get tripped up. It's like then all of a sudden I feel like I have to do it or I get bored.
Mm. Well, what I also experienced is I have to do it or I look like I'm wishy-washy and I don't follow through. So that's also a
Mm.
negative thing that I heard growing up, like, "Oh, she doesn't stick to anything," or "There's no follow-through," which is not true. However, what we do know is those of us with this gift is we stick to the things we like. So if I offer something and I notice a client is unable to stick to it, I have a couple clients that refuse to journal. I know how valuable it is, but for whatever reason, they're just not going to do it. So, okay, I toss that out and we try something else. So, it's just like the noodle. So,
Mhm.
until we find something that they can stick to, for however long works, that's what we do. And then we do a check in. How's it working for you? If it's not working for you, let's try something else. Right. So, there's no have tos, and I always tell people don't should on yourself, but we do wanna feel good, and
Mhm.
so if for today, the way I'm feeling better able to focus is singing for 5 minutes before I go to work or make breakfast or jumping up and down outside or spending 15 minutes journaling, that's what works.
Yep. I love, love, love that approach. I completely love that approach. I tell my clients all the time, this will work for you until it doesn't. And then
Yeah,
we have to have a backup plan, and that's okay. They've spent their whole life
yeah,
judging themselves because something stopped working, and I'm like, "No, our brain just needs the novelty." And you said it perfectly. You said, we tend to do wanna do the things that make us feel good, right?
mhm,
And so when you can find something that you do really like, great. That's the
mhm,
thing. You don't have to what works for me may not work for you. And it's really a question of finding the things that you love to do that you'll stick with, even if it's, not necessarily forever, but to
right.
get you started. So, yeah.
Yeah. And the hard part is obviously because we do have to navigate these lives that we're living, whether we're in a classroom or in a kitchen or a conference room, we do
Mhm.
have to sit through a meeting.
Mhm.
So, how to bring something tactile. I do this all the time under the table. Gyan mudra, index finger to the thumb is connecting individual to the universe. You can tap your fingers, nobody has to see you. It's giving you something to do. I only use Bic pens. Sometimes I'm flicking them around. If it bothers people, I take it under the table. But something in me has to be active enough so that the external view is calm and
Mhm.
I'm paying attention. And that helps me pay attention.
Yeah. And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about with school, which
Hmm.
is, like part of my daughter's 504 was she was allowed to doodle.
Hmm.
And if there was a substitute, sometimes they'd be like, you can't do that. She would try to say, no, it's part of my 504. And they weren't understanding that she was listening better because she was doodling. She needed to be doing that thing. So again, back to that, like, there's no one size fits all. I
Hmm.
was really thrilled that they allowed that to happen. With my son, they let him
Yeah.
get up and walk around because
Yeah.
that was what he needed. So I think we are getting better in these circles, with schools, depending on where you live, obviously, and whatnot. But it
And at
does make.
work, like, I
Mhm.
hope it's better at work. Like, I hope just how you're describing, you can be sitting in a meeting and there's 3 people maybe doing just a little variety of things just to maintain their engagement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, technically, it's covered under the Americans with Disabilities Act. You can ask for reasonable accommodations, things like that. But I think, just like you said, I have a chair that I love because I can move my legs and you can't see it from up here. Because when I
Mm,
started doing webinars, I got feedback that I moved around too much because, like you, I can't sit still. And so this
yeah.
chair has a built in ottoman that just circles around the chair and I can just move my legs. And that is sometimes the way that I am able to stay focused and get some movement in so that I can pay attention. So, um,
Love it.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Huh.
Okay, so you say we do come with instructions. What's one instruction you wish more women with ADHD would believe about themselves?
They matter. I mean, it all starts at the root. Like, you have every right to be here on the planet in the amazing body that you have for all it gives you, for all it provides for you, and for all the ways it speaks to you, even when you don't want it to. And so, if we can all just start with the fact that we matter, own it, own the body you have, enjoy it, and don't be afraid to ask for help, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
without feeling like you're a failure for doing so. And so there's those internal instructions, those programmings, the rewiring that we're meant to do. That's what I help people do the most is, getting really into the nitty gritty of how come I've thought this for so long, or how come I behaved this way for so long, and that it all starts there, right? And then the next one I would say is solar plexus, self confidence. I mean, all of it, self love, self confidence, expressing your passion how you're meant to, right? All the way up the chain, learning how to appreciate the sound of your voice, also being a really good listener. That's really hard for some of us with this,
Mm-hmm.
um, and allowing for the varied expressions in the way we are meant to express ourselves, but also how others express themselves. You hit it on the head, the divergent ways that people do speak or do behave. We need to be accepting of that. And we need to accept that within ourselves, right? So, again, that goes down to the root, like just accepting how we are and who we are, and then being allowed to have our visions and connections outside of ourselves. But yeah, I would say root and solar plexus. Solar plexus is confidence.
Yeah.
It's our empowerment, our power center, how we make decisions, and how we use or abuse our power within ourselves or towards others. Yeah,
Oh, see, I've never heard that phrase that way before. How we use or abuse the power against ourselves.
yeah.
Like, I never really thought of it that way. That is a really very interesting way of looking at it. I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's powerful to me. That was sorry, I
Well,
just thought that
we
really
don't
like.
realize, just like self care, goes out the window when we're busy. Um,
Mhm.
the power we have over our well being is huge, right? If we abuse ourselves, not just with drugs or whatever, it's negative self talk.
Oh,
It is,
yes.
it is not allowing ourselves to rest without judgment. That's how we abuse our power. We have the power to choose. That's solar plexus again. The choices we make, I just read this quote the other day in class. I'll have to come up with it, but it's basically the micro decisions we make every day either increase or take our power away.
Mhm.
Yeah. And if that wasn't it, then that's what it is now. So,
Yeah. I
but
mean, it
truly,
yeah, it is we are sometimes our own worst bullies.
hmm
And I mean, things I have said to myself, I would never say to another human being. And I've become, since my diagnosis and therapy and my own coaching and all that, like I definitely have gotten better about it because I recognize it. It was such a part of who I was. I didn't even notice it in the beginning. It was
right.
just like white noise.
It's like
Uh,
the Charlie Brown, "Ma wah, ma wah, ma wah." That really does affect us.
yeah, it does a lot. In your experience, how does energy healing or chakra work support clarity and focus for women who feel scattered?
Yeah. So the chakra system, I describe it like a roll of lifesavers, right? If I'm old enough to remember record albums that you stack up on a spindle. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, they run from the base to the crown, Roy G. Biv. So it is like a rainbow roll of lifesavers. Theoretically, they spin outwardly, front and back. The root goes down, the crown goes up. Okay. But there's like cones. It's just easier for me to sort of visualize it this way. In addition, it's our energy line from our connection from the earth, our grounding to spirit, whatever you define, anything outside of ourselves we can't see.
Hmm.
And just like a water hose in your garden, if there's a kink in that hose, the water, the energy, the clarity, the focus won't flow. So, where we have kinks in that hose at any of these points is where we're going to work on maybe first, second, third, fourth, or at the same time through Reiki healing
Yeah.
um, to really broaden and widen that channel. So, the central energy channel in our body is the Shumanati, and the two that crisscross the chakras on either side are the Ida and Pingala, which are Sanskrit words you don't have to know. But when we take deep breaths, when we give ourselves a chance to rest, we are improving the connection and widening that channel, right? Think about fight
Okay.
or flight, right?
Hmm.
Parasympathetic, sympathetic. So the scientifics are kicking in, right? So deep breathing matters for so many reasons. And one of them is to provide this clear channel for our chakras to spin in a balanced way.
Very
Yeah.
interesting. I did not know that. Oh, deep breathing is one of my go-tos, and it's
Yeah.
one of the things I'm always trying to teach clients to do, like, when they're really, that emotional dysregulation kicks in. I'm like, just taking deep breaths, focus
hmm
on the breath going in. I didn't realize, like, that part of it. I just knew that it helped to calm the central nervous system, but now I
Well, right.
understand it from a more chakral perspective. So that's awesome.
Exactly. The vagus nerve is, it's the chief
Mhm.
cook and bottle washer, right? And if you got to give that guy some space.
Yeah.
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 So yeah.
Yeah, the vagus nerve, I've been seeing so much about it lately, and I'm like, this totally makes sense. All right, what myths do you wish you could bust about what it means to be quote unquote well, especially for women juggling so much and living with ADHD?
Okay, right away it's coming up that well is defined as your bank account. If you're wealthy,
Mm,
then you're healthy. Okay? That's a big
mm,
myth, right? You can be
yeah.
the poorest person on the planet and be the most joyful. So I wish that we could extricate, I know I'm speaking from experience, value with monetary worth. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, I think another myth in terms of wellness is that you have to eat granola or be a vegetarian and, sit on a mountaintop and contemplate your navel in meditation for 14 days. That's not necessary either. So it all comes back to your definition of personal health care. If that's 5 deep breaths when you can remember to take them, if it's drinking a little less today than you did yesterday, if it's being kinder with your thoughts than you were before, um, and giving yourself a break when you can't stick to it, right? So, wellness is acceptance and forgiveness and being open to receiving the good help and advice of others because we're not here to do everything alone.
Yes. We are terrible about asking for help.
Yeah.
And it's so important. so important to
Yeah.
learn how to do that. Uh,
And then welcoming it, right? I'm sure you have this. I've seen this. People hire us
mhm.
and then they're like, nope, I'm not going to do that. Like, you walked in my door and now you don't want me to help you. So being open to, I always say, like, we all just need to be coachable.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's anybody. Like that
Anybody.
being coachable is something that you there's only like an upside to that one.
Mhm.
You've learned so much more. You acquire better skills, you become a better person, I think, when you are really coachable and
Yeah.
you take feedback not as criticism, but as feedback. When somebody described that to me, they said, don't look at it as criticism, look at it as feedback. And that really changed my perspective on it because I've always been so sensitive
Mm,
about quote unquote getting in trouble or that kind of thing, and that made it a completely different meaning in my head. So I think
yeah.
that's important too. Yeah, I think there's just so much wrapped up in the word wellness now that is not about actual wellness. It's more bringing in money. There's just so many things out there and it's all under the name of wellness. I'm like, but is it really wellness, or are
Yeah.
they just spending money on something that's not really going to work for them, right?
Well, to
And
that too. Yeah. When you're scrolling through your Instagram is a huge example of this.
mhm.
One person's definition of wellness is buying expensive face creams. Another person's definition of wellness is getting plastic surgery. Another person's definition of wellness is reading really great quotes for an hour.
Mhm.
Um, but the comparison syndrome and the
Yes.
feeling like I don't have it figured out because others look like they do. You just have to go inside. And when you're looking at those images, are you able to breathe? And is it putting you in the negative category of less? And if that's the truth, then that's not what you're supposed to be looking at because that's not
Mhm.
doing you any well being. That's just
No,
damaging your well being.
agreed. Yeah,
Yeah.
the comparison syndrome that we have as a society now, I'm
Mhm.
constantly reminding myself, but because my kids are on this stuff now too, and I'm like, you guys understand that you're only seeing the best of people's lives, right? They're not showing you the fights. They're not showing you all the other stuff that comes with this. It's You're just getting the highlight reel. And of course, I go, yeah, I know, ma. But
Yeah.
but I keep
Even when
telling
they
them this.
do, it's just like sometimes I don't wanna see that because it makes me sad. So it's like
Yeah.
it's what we ingest. Again, those micro decisions. We
Yes.
have the choice to watch it, eat it, believe it, or not, and that's well-being. That is true for us at
Yeah.
any moment, at any day. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it also leads to a lot of imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
I definitely deal with that, and it's in part because you see other people doing something similar to you and they're doing really well, and then I'm like, well, who am I to be saying I should be doing this and not, and it's everybody brings who they are to the table, and that is the differentiator most of the time. And
Yeah.
because most of us know a lot of the same stuff, but it's who we are
Mhm.
that brings people to us, right?
Yeah.
So always remember that who you are, like you said before, that you matter, and you're going to bring people to you that are attracted to who you are and what you put out there. So put out good stuff.
We all pull from the same energetic pot. We just use
Hmm.
different ladles. My ladle's mine, your ladle's yours. And just because, starting a business and being out here, it is hard because you do see people seemingly doing better, but are they happier? I don't know. But it's hard not to get caught up in that comparison. And yet, the way I explain things and the way you explain things is going to connect with the right person at the right time, even if there's 45 others doing the same thing we are. They're not
Yes.
us.
Yes. When I first started doing reels, almost immediately I had people saying, do you have a podcast? And I was like,
Mm,
no. They're like, you need to do a podcast. And at the time I was like, no, I don't think so. And I said, because I don't know what I would really put out there that's really going to be anything different than what's out there. And every single one of them said the same thing, but you bring you.
yeah.
And it still took me a couple of years to finally go, okay, maybe I'll do this. Right. I think we really underestimate how valuable just bringing yourself to the table is. And that's one of the things I really try to instill in my clients is I want you to feel empowered with your ADHD. I want you to feel like feel comfortable and embrace it because it's not going anywhere, first of all.
Mhm,
And you bring so much to the table. You just need to find what that is for you. So I
mhm.
think that's something for people to remember.
I
All
mean,
right.
we can get a lot of shit done, I gotta say. I mean, we can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I teach people a lot about like know when your best energy is. And because it usually also aligns when your best focus is. That's more likely when you're going to fall into hyper focus. If you are, just make sure you're hyper focused on the right thing. But man, you can knock some serious stuff out, but you still got to remember to take your breaks. Otherwise, you're going to be out of commission for the next 2 days. So, because
Yeah, so
I've had,
true. Yeah.
okay, so you serve leaders, parents, teachers, and more. So, is there a common thread or a root struggle that runs through your clients, regardless of their background?
Confidence, mattering, feeling understood, and valuable in the role they're playing, right? So it's tough out there, especially when you're in charge of other people, whether I always say at the kitchen table or the conference room table. If you don't believe that you matter to yourself, that is going to feed and factor into everything else that you're doing. It's going to infect and affect the way you relate and converse and lead and teach and heal. And so, again, everything just starts there.
Yep.
And that's
Uh,
universal. It's a universal thread. Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to feel like they matter to one other person. But you've got to matter to yourself first, because
yes.
nobody else is going to fill that hole until you do.
I remember Oprah saying that literally every guest she ever had, even the ones that you think come out really confident, whatever, they always ask her right after the interview, "Did I do okay?" Because they
Yeah.
want to know they did a good job and that what they said mattered. I thought that was such an interesting observation because you some of these people you wouldn't think that. You'd think, "Oh, they know what they're doing." And I think everybody
Yeah.
has that little part of themselves. It's like, "I hope I'm doing this
It's
okay."
yeah, it's all the inner child, it's the inner puppy, everybody just wants a little scratch and a
Yes.
little pat. Good job today, you know?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, for listeners who are unsure about woo approaches, what is a simple first step that's both practical and profound?
In terms of, like, wanting to
Dipping
see
their
me or
toe, yeah, seeing you, or just dipping into the woo world in general, because there are a lot of people who are very kind of like, I don't know about that. But I think that,
okay.
like, yeah, you could dip your toe in a little bit and,
I talk about this in workshops all the time. I
hmm
ask people to raise their hand if they have a cell phone. Everybody's hand goes up.
hmm
So for those of you out there who don't believe in something woo-woo, you're already connecting to Wi-Fi, 5G, whatever it is. You just have trust and faith. It's there. And that's energy. That is what I help you understand and navigate and tap into because you're already doing it. So for anybody who's like, that's too woo woo for me, you're already being woo woo just because you have a cell phone and a computer that's connected to something we can't see. So
I love this. Okay. So I can't believe I haven't asked this already. I usually ask this right off the bat, but how did you even get into all of these things that you do?
I'm
I'm sure there was
ADD.
not
And
one story.
I'm a Gemini. So how did I get into it? Yeah, I've always been meant to be a teacher, and I am. I started off in dance and I was athletic, I was on sports teams and this and that, ran track, no surprise. And it just became impossible not to go through teacher training to blend the love of what I loved about yoga practice and bring it to others. And at the time I went through it, I really didn't know how I was going to bring that through. Now I'll be going into my 11th year integrating yoga and the chakras. Every January, I start teaching through the chakras. And so my secret sauce has become integrating this ancient system into the modern bodies we have. And so the business, custom design wellness, really, and the podcast is a marriage of all of that. Is because there's not one size fits all. It inspired me to become Reiki certified. I've always been good with my hands. So I do hands off and hands on. When I teach yoga, I adjust. Um, and it's just a way to really integrate everything I love about really understanding how we're made because that's such a curiosity of mine because
Yeah.
it's work I've done on myself, right? So I teach from what I know in the way that I can explain it. And doing the work that I do, how I do it, is how that happens for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I I love it when people find the thing that they're clearly meant to be doing. I feel like that is definitely this for you because so
Yeah.
often people live lives doing things they don't really want to be doing, and I want everyone to feel happy with what they do.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am going to now have with each interview, I do what I call the rapid fire round.
Oh,
So I'm
I'm
going
going
to
to sit up.
ask you. So I'm going to ask you some questions and just answer just top of your head, whatever comes to mind. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So first question is, what is your favorite ADHD super skill in yourself or in your clients?
Speed,
Nice. If you could assign one wellness ritual to every busy woman, what would it be?
earthing,
Oh, is that the walking around
grounding.
the I just saw a documentary about that. It was so good.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to walk. You can just stand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay. Coffee or meditation? What gets you through a tough morning?
Well, I don't meditate in the morning. So, well, I do when I wake up. I would say both.
Hey.
Meditation, then coffee.
All right. I love it. I was like, for me, it
Yeah.
would be both. Um, what's the weirdest aha moment you've had during a session?
Seeing colors come out of my hands.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's really cool.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so
Um,
cool. What color was it? Or was it several?
well, I mean, like I said, it's like no matter where my hands are, if there's a color that I'm seeing, it's like that's a message that there's something dealing with the chakra.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I love that. That's so cool. All right.
yeah.
Last question. Favorite quick reset: 5 jumping jacks, a yoga pose, or belting out a song?
Ooh, belting out a song because I
Love it.
sing. Yeah.
Yes.
But I can also sing and do jumping jacks. So maybe both of those too. And I sing when I'm
Multitask.
teaching yoga and when I'm on the mat. People know, like, they're around me, like, oh, there she goes again. I can't help it.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining
Oh.
me. I am going to have all of her information in the show notes so that you can find her. What is the best place to find you? Where's the best place to find you?
I'm on the socials, custom designed wellness on Instagram and Facebook. And my email for my business is Lauri, Lauri, at customdesignedwellness.com. And I'm on TikTok and everything. Yeah, you'll put it in the show notes, but that's the easiest way to find me.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Laurie, for being here. I really appreciate it. And I could talk about this forever. I love this stuff. So thank you very much for being here.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are listening or watching, feel free to check out her stuff in the show notes and check out some of the stuff she does because she's a very cool person. Thank you
Thank
so much for
you.
spending time with us today. I really appreciate you guys listening. And so remember that it is not just focus, it is about everything and to stay curious. Thanks again, Laurie.
Thank you. And congratulations on your new podcast. May you have much success. And I'm so grateful to be a guest on here.
Well, thank you. Thank you.